Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hannah Burbage,
Ms. Burbage, with whom are you employed?
the Greenville County Department of Public Safety in the Forensic DNA Lab.
And what do you do in the forensic DNA lab?
I'm a DNA analyst.
And what is a DNA analyst?
So a DNA analyst, we examine items of evidence for profiles and then compare them to any references provided.
Can you give us a little bit of your background and employment history and education?
I have a bachelor's in forensic science from Western Carolina University, and I have been employed here about 4.5 years.
And can you tell this jury more specifically what are your duties and roles in the forensic DNA lab?
So before I became a DNA analyst, I started out as their serologist. So serology is basically examining items of evidence for suspected body fluids, such as blood, semen, and saliva, as well as we can kind of find out who might have worn an item or handled an item, and then taking samples forward for DNA analysis. And then once those samples go forward for DNA analysis, the analyst will perform analysis, get the profiles, compare them, and then we write up reports.
Okay. And where is all of this conducted?
At the DNA lab?
And is the DNA lab here in Greenville?
Yes.
All right. And how long has the DNA lab been in existence?
I believe it was opened in 2011.
All right. And so when you get a sample that you want to be tested, tell this jury how that process works.
So an investigator has to request the DNA to be done. So they fill out a form and what evidence they would like processed. I then review any documentation for that particular case, such as incident reports, crime scene reports, as well as the DNA request and any evidence collected. Once I kind of have an idea of what evidence needs to be processed and what needs to be done on those items. So am I looking for suspected body fluids, or am I processing it in a different way? Then I will request evidence from our property and evidence section, which is the location that stores all evidence from crime scenes. They will then get the evidence together that I need. I will go to that location there at the law enforcement center, pick up the evidence from them, and bring it back to the DNA lab, which is a secure facility and accessed by key card only. Before processing, I wear personal protective equipment, so a lab coat, gloves, face mask. I clean my workbench as well as any tools I'm going to be using with 10% bleach. I process one item at a time, and I always start with evidence items before processing reference items.
And have you ever been qualified as an expert in serology before?
Yes.
How many times?
I believe about 6.
Your Honor, the state moves to qualify Hannah Burbage as an expert in serology.
No objection. No objection. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've said with other expert witnesses, this particular witness will be qualified in the area of serology to give an opinion in that area. However, that does not mean that you must accept the opinion, but it is evidence for you to use in any way you see fit and give it the weight and credibility that you believe is appropriate.
Ms. Burbage, I'm going to ask you, were you asked to assist in the performances of various DNA analysis in the case of Zachary Hughes?
So I only performed serology for this case. I did not do any DNA analysis.
Okay. Did you perform, but you did perform serology in this particular case?
Yes.
Okay. And so what was the first, how did you know to perform serology in this particular case?
The investigator requested DNA evidence to be processed.
Okay. And how was that request made?
Through a form, a DNA analysis request form.
And how do you receive that form?
So we have a digital system that keeps track of all evidence that's in property and evidence that I have access to, and there's a staging location for evidence that's been requested for DNA, and I review those requests through that And that's how I'm notified, or investigators can request to talk to us about cases.
And when you get this request for whatever particular item of DNA, what do you do?
So, as I said before, I review all documentation, including the incident report, crime scene reports, as well as the evidence list, to kind of get an understanding of the case and what evidence is requested and how I would process the evidence that's requested.
And then do you physically go down to property and evidence and obtain that evidence, obtain it?
Yes.
And then what do you do with it once it's in your possession?
It's brought back to the DNA lab, which, as I said before, is a secure location.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibits 96 and 97. Ask if you recognize these.
Yes.
And on here, on State's 97, is that your initials right there?
Yes.
And did you go to property and evidence and obtain these particular pieces of evidence?
Yes.
And what are they?
Case item number KF-AU1 became our item number 10, which is a sealed package containing buccal swab from Christina Parcell.
Okay, and so you said your item number 10. Explain to the jury how that happens.
So whenever we receive evidence, we label them just to kind of keep track in our system of each item.
Okay. And so when you had the request to get the DNA and you went down to property and evidence, how did you do that?
So we drive to property and evidence, which is located at the law enforcement center, and they will provide me with the evidence. It's usually scanned into my custody through our digital barcoding system, which is a digital chain of custody.
And once you receive the evidence, do you inspect it?
Once I'm back at the lab and ready to begin processing the evidence, I will be inspecting it.
And what are you inspecting it for?
To ensure that it's the correct items, as well as everything is sealed and labeled properly.
Did you inspect these two particular items as well?
Yes.
And was there anything significant that you saw about whether they had been tampered with or not?
No.
Did you inspect them to see if they were properly sealed?
Yes.
And was there any issue that you noted on any reports regarding those samples?
I have no notes regarding any issues with the evidence.
If there was something that brought to your attention, would you note that?
Yes, I would document it as well as notify my supervisor immediately.
And would you be able to use it in testing if there was an issue or a contamination or an improper sealing?
Typically, we would not process anything that has not been sealed.
And were these two items sealed properly?
Yes.
Let's show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 11. Ask you if you recognize that.
Yes.
All right. And is that your initials on there?
Yes.
And would that be when you retrieved it from property and evidence?
So typically when I label evidence, that is the day that I'm actually processing it. When I initially am going to open the evidence, I will label it with our lab number, our unique item number, my initials, and the date that I'm processing it.
And did you retrieve this evidence from property and evidence
Yes.
here in Greenville?
Yes.
And when you retrieved it, did you notice any improper sealing or tampering with the item?
No.
And if you had, would you have put it in your notes?
Yes.
Let me show you State's Exhibit 100. Let me show you State's Exhibit 100. You can open that up. And before I ask you that, on the prior exhibit, did you make it a new DNA number, or a new DNA item?
Yes. So originally, case item number BW-A became our item number 11, which was a sealed package containing buccal swab from Michael Manigal.
All right, now I'm showing you State's Exhibit 100.
Okay. Case item number KF-N1 became our item number 12, a sealed package containing buccal swab from Zachary Hughes. This is the one that I processed.
Okay, so that would be what item number?
Originally, case item KF-N1 became our item 12. This is a second buccal swab, was labeled as a different item number.
What item number was that?
KF-N2.
Now, did you retrieve this from property and evidence?
Yes.
And when you retrieved it, how did you find it?
It was a sealed package containing buccal swab from Zachary Hughes.
Did you notice that had it been tampered with?
No.
Had there been any issue with the sealing that you noticed?
No.
So in your inspection, was it properly sealed?
Yes.
And where did you take the sample?
At the DNA lab.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 94 and 95. Ask if you recognize these.
Yes.
And what are these?
So case item number KF-AU9 became our item 2, which was a sealed package containing fingernail clippings from victim's right hand. And then case item number KF-AU10 became our number item 3, which was a sealed package containing fingernail clippings from victim's left hand.
Did you collect this from the Greenville County Property and Evidence?
Yes.
And do you recall how, when you obtained these items, what condition they were in?
They were sealed.
Any issues with them being marked, open, contaminated, or anything like that?
No.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 98 and 99. States Exhibit 98 and 99. What are those?
Excuse me. Case item number KF-32A became our item number 5, and it is a sealed package containing swab from right handle brake of black Kona bicycle. And then case item KF-32B became our item number 6, a sealed package containing swab from left handle brake of black Kona bicycle.
And did you retrieve those from the Greenville County Property and Evidence here in Greenville?
Yes.
And did you notice any issues when you received it from DNA?
No.
Was there any tampering with these items?
They were sealed.
They were sealed properly?
Yes.
All right. So once you get these items back to the DNA lab, what do you do with them?
So they are stored until I'm ready to begin processing. And then, as I said before, once I am ready to begin processing, I'll put on my PPE, clean my work area, and then open one item at a time for processing. Once I'm done taking either testing or taking samples from that item, I'll seal it back up and then move on to the next item. I work all evidence items first before references. Any samples that I take are given their own unique item number and barcode number to maintain chain of custody, and then those items are stored in the freezer until the DNA analyst is ready to begin processing.
Okay, so I'm going to refer you to your reference number 2A and 3A, clippings of right hand, which is 2A. What did you, testing did you perform on those? Or not testing, what, the right word, did you take any swabs of it?
Yes, so for item 2, the fingernail clippings from the victim's right hand, observation revealed 4 pink fake nails. A swab of the tips of the fingernail clippings were taken for DNA analysis as item 2A. So the actual nails, I swabbed the tips of them, and then those swabs became item 2A, which were forwarded for DNA analysis.
And did you do that with your item 3A, the left hand?
Yes, so item 3, the fingernail clippings from the victim's left hand, observation revealed 5 pink fake nails, and a swab of the tips of the fingernail clippings were taken for DNA analysis as item 3A.
So tell this jury, so when you get these items out, how are you dressed in order to avoid contamination? Literally, what do you do?
I'm wearing a lab coat, a face mask, and gloves. I change my gloves frequently, as well as cleaning my surface area, any tools that I'm using, and I clean in between items and cases.
And then how do you swab these items?
So for certain items, we're going to take a wet swab. So it's a swab. It looks like a Q-tip, kind of like a long Q-tip, and we will lightly wet it with deionized water, and then proceed to actually swab the areas that I'm intending to swab. And this helps pick up any skin cells that might be present in that particular area.
And did you swab the your 2A clippings of the right hand of the victim?
That's what I created, the swabs, item 2A.
And then where do you place that swab?
They're placed in DNA Freezer 1, which is where the DNA analyst will then pick them up from.
And what about your items 5A and 6A, the handlebars of the bike, right and left side?
So item 5, the swab from the right handle brake of black Kona bicycle, since that was already a swab, I am just taking a portion of that. So I literally cut a portion of that swab, place that sample into a tube, and that gets labeled as item 5A and forwarded for DNA analysis. And then item 6, the swab from the left handle brake, I did the same thing. That gets taken a sample forward as item 6A.
did you put that in a secure storage location?
Yes, those would have been stored in DNA Freezer 1 as well.
Now, in regards to your, what I'll call them knowns, which would be your 10A, 11A, and 12A, 10A being the victim's known, Michael Manigault's known being your 11A, and Zachary Hughes's being your known 12A. How do you process the knowns?
So as I said before, the knowns are processed last. Because they're reference items, they're swabs. Buccal swabs are swabs from the inside of your cheek. So they're direct DNA references taken from that specific person, and that's what's used to compare to evidence items. So I would process them the same way by opening one at a time. Since it's a swab, I'm taking a portion of that swab, putting it in a tube, and labeling that as its own unique item number. So for item 10, buccal swab from Christina Parcell, a sample was taken for DNA analysis as item 10A. Item 11, a buccal swab from Michael Manigault, a sample was taken for DNA analysis as item 11A. And buccal swab from Zachary Hughes, which was originally item 12, a sample was taken for DNA analysis as item 12A. And then those would have been stored in the freezer as well.
So how do you take a sample?
I'm literally cutting the swab with scissors, clean scissors.
Now, is this done at a different time than the sort of the suspect, the unknown swabs?
Yes, the evidence items I'm processing first, and then reference items are processed last, so they're separated by time and space from the evidence items.
How much time and space?
Typically, it could be a few minutes to an hour. It just depends on when I'm actually processing the evidence.
And then in between, are y'all cleaning?
Yes, I clean in between each item.
Your Honor, state moves 96 and 97 in, 111, 100, 95, 94, 99, and 98.
Your Honor, I object to the introduction of all these exhibits pursuant to Rule 901. The state has failed to adequately establish a chain of custody, failed to authenticate it. That would be our objection.
Your objection is noted for the record, overruled, consistent with State v. Hatcher, Trap, and other cases. Anything from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. We feel the chain under those cases has been met. All of the swabs were taken by witnesses that have already testified. They all testified they put it into property and evidence. Ms. Burbage has testified that she received it from property evidence in a good condition, non-contaminated condition, that she could use and be able to analyze.
And I think the state can. But your objection is noted for the record, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Now, Ms. Burbage, who actually did the DNA testing in this?
Tim Knopfseeker.
All right. And would he have handled other items? Would he have gone and gotten other items from property and evidence?
I would have to refer to the chain of custody. Occasionally, I will pick up additional items later on for additional testing, but I don't actually open them and take samples. For instance, if reference items are submitted later on, I may pick them up from property and evidence with my other evidence, but the analyst can cut it and take it forward for analysis on their own, and the chain of custody would reflect this.
Do you recall taking any other pieces of evidence from property and evidence to the DNA lab?
I have about almost 30 items that I have processed for this case.
Can you check your notes? And did you take references to John Mello, Brad Post, and Alex Fields?
I did not process those.
So you didn't cut the little ends and put it and have it ready for DNA on those 3?
No.
Your Honor, just for clarifications, I've got states 96, 97, 111, 100, 95, 94, 98, and 99. Into evidence.
Just make sure they've already been.
And your objection? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's objections. And just to be clear, Your Honor, I'm sorry. So Mr. Wilkins referenced those exhibits, those are already in evidence.
That's correct.
I
I'm just crossing with you, double checking. Those are the ones we discussed and that we're putting it down.
For the record, make sure it is absolutely clear, 96, 97, 111, 100, 94, 95, 98, and 99 are all into evidence. And your objections, no.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. And I've already referenced cases.
That's all the state has, Your Honor.
Any cross?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.